Welcome to this episode of the Horse No Name podcast. We are in the midst of our decade in review. We have reached the 2015-16 academic year. We're actually going to break this year down into two podcasts. And if you're unfamiliar with that year, we are breaking it down into two podcasts because it was a very special year at Lancaster Bible College, specifically with our men's basketball team. So Bob and I are honored to have former head men's basketball coach Zach Filzen with us today. Zach, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bob and I are pretty excited to do this podcast. When we kind of developed this idea earlier in the semester, this was one of the ones I was looking forward to for sure. Just kind of rehash this. I think a lot of people who have reached out to Bob and I over the course of this project have kind of been excited to get to this one as well. I was very happy and excited when you said you would do it, so I really appreciate it. So
no problem. Thank you.
So when you arrived, we had Marshall Tague on last week. He stepped down in mid-May. We hired you a little less than a month later. You had a couple weeks to kind of get acclimated to Lancaster. I have a great photo of you having your first whoopie pie. I can send you some.
Love it. Love it.
We had a few weeks to get to know the guys a little bit, and then that August, September weeding out process. The guys do open gym. You pretend not to be in the gym and things like that before practice starts. What did you like, or what did you see from the team that was coming off a 28-3 record with an NCCAA Division II national championship?
Yeah, as I watched film and as I got to know the guys, like I knew there were some special pieces, and Coach Tague, Marshall had done a really good job laying the foundation, and Jared Yoder, I think, played a big part in recruiting some guys here that could really play. And I kind of viewed my job as, man, this program has been in a really good spot for the last few years. My job is to help it try to get over the hump and try to do something that hasn't been done before yet. So as I got here and I kind of just evaluated the situation, evaluated the program, like the makeup, the culture, got to know the guys and kind of got more comfortable with them as people, but also with how they played. I was excited. I mean, not very often are you going to be 26-year-old head coach gifted this opportunity, right, with the program and guys in the program like we're in the program. So we tried to bring in a couple guys that summer and add them to the mix, and ended up being a pretty powerful combination, which was a lot of fun. But I mean, I'd be first to admit I was dealt a pretty darn good hand, and the guys before me did a really good job getting the pieces and kind of laying the foundation, and then we just tried to notch it up a little bit.
That's a great transition to my next question. So before the season starts, two good things happen. Kirk Keltner returns to the program after a few seasons off, and Bryce Williams enrolls at LBC. How important did you think before the season even started that those two pieces would be? You knew CJ from film, you knew Dre from film, Big Luke in the middle, a bunch of other good guys, Jordan Mellinger, guys off the bench who could contribute minutes. But then to add those two pieces, what did you think those two were going to bring specifically, even before the season started?
Yeah, I had a pretty good feeling about both of them. Bryce, I knew better just from my past and being in Minnesota. I knew he could really play. I'd seen him play before. I knew he'd be a big-time addition to what we were trying to do, and we were fortunate enough to add him for that year. Kurt, I got to know after I got there, and as I got to know him, and as I started to see him play, I was like, man, this guy has some special skills that we can really incorporate with how we tried to play. He was so skilled and did a variety of different things, including being a pretty darn good athlete and very physical. And he was just really impressive. He had a heck of a year. So him, I got more comfortable with as the year went on. I didn't know a ton. I just knew the guys had kind of hyped him up and said like he'd be a great piece to add. So I kind of got to know him, and thankfully he gave it a shot. But man, as I saw him play, and as he got more comfortable playing basketball again, after some time off, he exploded. And he was, I mean, everyone talks about CJ and Bryce and how talented they were, and Dre, and they obviously were. But I kind of felt like Kurt was our linchpin, kind of the guy that did so many different things for us and was such a good playmaker at that position, which was really difficult for other teams to deal with.
Zach, what were you thinking though? Like, you're coming in, first time head coach. Hindsight is 2020. So obviously we know this team goes 27-1 and everything. What did you think was the potential of the team as you started out that year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought the ceiling was pretty high. I'm not gonna sit here and say I thought we'd go undefeated in the regular season and go 27-1 and be ranked where we're 14th in the country at one point. Like, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I expected that. But I knew this group could be really good. I mean, they were 28-3 the year before, right? They had a really good run and had some really good experience. We were returning a lot, so I kind of felt like with the pieces we were adding and the guys who were returning, and we could be pretty darn good. And then we were picked preseason number 2 in the league, and that kind of added the fuel to the fire. And it just was like this perfect combination of talent, just a little bit of tweaks on our end of kind of how we wanted to play, and it kind of blew up in a really good way. So I mean, I thought we definitely could go win the league. I thought we could be a force in the tournament and all that kind of stuff. But once we started playing, things just clicked, and it was really, really fun.
Did the guys talk to you about the NEAC and their previous 2 years? I'm sure you became acclimated then with the league once you got the job. But, 13, 14, we talked to Albert Suniga, and, they were disappointed that they lost to Morrisville State in the final, but that was a really good Morrisville State team. There was a little bit of a, hey, happy to be here kind of vibe. Then 14, 15, we, frankly, lay a dud in the NEAC final. We rehashed that last week. I won't kill our listeners with that. But there's this motivation that maybe you don't even need to talk about the NEAC. And the guys kind of handled it for themselves. Not that you didn't talk about it, I'm sure, but what did you say, or did they kind of inform you like, look, here's the deal, we're winning this and no one's taking it from us?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I tried to do is I tried to raise their eyes even higher than what they thought. And I kind of felt like we were enamored with the conference championship and enamored with there's almost so much self-imposed pressure about we have to win it just because of what happened the previous couple of years. Then my thing was like, let's raise the ceiling even higher. Like, let's think bigger than just that. Like, let's think about, can we be a force like nationally, right? Can we be a team that can go compete with other people and do some really, really impressive things? Because I kind of felt like as I looked at the group that was returning and a couple guys we added and all that kind of stuff, like I felt like we could have done a little bit more damage even in the tournament, but also I felt like this is a group that I don't want just obsessed with winning the NEAC Championship, but I want them thinking, can we do something even more special? And I think they bought into that. I think their eyes got open and they started to believe in each other more, believe in me and how we wanted to operate. And it just kind of happened from there. But there was definitely a laser focus to getting that job done, which is great because we could use that as a level of accountability. But I try to get them to think even bigger than just winning the NEAC Championship for sure.
So we'll kind of go through a couple of the games here. We'll pause at a couple of spots here and there. The first 2 games we win at E-Town, then win at Messiah. Obviously you weren't from here, but I'm sure you were told that those 2 wins don't really happen in any sports, let alone men's basketball for LBC. What did you see those first 2 games? Were there things that you had implemented, or there was a scheme change for sure in how you guys played? Were there things in those first 2 games that you saw that you were pretty excited about, especially beating those 2 teams specifically?
Yeah, to be very honest, I wasn't thrilled after E-Town. I remember thinking, man, like, yeah, we won, but I just didn't feel like we played like we're capable. Like, I mean, the first game with the new system, new way of operating, I guess that's to be expected, but I didn't love it. I didn't love the effort. I didn't love how we executed and all that. Then we went to Messiah with a pretty good crowd, a place that there's a lot of respect for that program and for that university, which is great, which is awesome. And we kind of started out that game. I don't know if y'all remember this. We started pretty slow. I think we were down 8, 9, 10 early. And then second half came and we just flipped. CJ played really well. I remember Kirk played really well, and just kind of, I think that was the first turning point for us in the sense that when it comes to belief, when it comes to raising the bar expectation wise, that like, hey, yeah, we could be pretty good in our league, but we could be pretty good beyond that. And that's kind of what happened, I think, is that second half. I remember vividly just like it clicked for us a little bit with the way we wanted to play and the buy-in to each other. And that's kind of where everything took off from there. So that was a big win for us. I mean, both of them were really big wins, but the Messiah one specifically, I think, is what kind of jump-started the whole movement. And obviously the next game was a big piece as well. But that was a big step.
Absolutely. So the next game is Franklin and Marshall. It's the championship of the Messiah tournament. whatever that means, third game of the season. But we're up to play F&M. They had beaten us in the 2010-11 season. We lost by 57 points to F&M. We played them the next year. I think we scored 35 points. I think it was closer, but we still so there's not a ton of expectations, but hey, it's a good measuring stick. I'm sure we had that conversation, things like that. I'm just going to quickly recap the game, and you can raise your hand. I'll see you raise your hand if you want to poke your head in and mention anything. But we're up by 5, 12:25 to go. First half, we're up by 5. Hey, this is I'll kind of rehash what I'm thinking in my head. I actually went to this game. I took my son. I think I told my wife, hey, just hang out for the afternoon. We're just going to Messiah. I'm just curious. I'm just a little curious about the team. Like, they kind of beat Messiah and E-Town. Like, we'll just go up. It's close.
Yep.
We went up. So, this is nice. We're winning. This is okay, great. And then this next 4 minutes, we go on this 11-2 run. And now it's 27-13. We lead by as many as 17 in the first half. They have a little late run, F&M does. So we're up 12 at half. So you're thinking, okay, I'm going to tweet this score out. I'm going to tag a few people so that they see what's going on and things like that. And, but it's F&M. I assume they're going to make a run at some point. They're 19th in the country. That's what they should do. Whatever. Couple minutes into the second half, back-to-back steals and dunks by CJ. I think on the second one, I lifted Jack in the air and threw him down. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. The place is stunned. F&M calls timeout. It's the greatest, and they want to talk it over moments in my, I think that's what I said in my head anyway. We're up by almost 20, and you start doing the math with the clock winding down, and it's getting more and more difficult. Couple minutes later, Keltner 3, Bryce and Herbie layups, Mellinger 3. We're up by 28 with 12 minutes to go, and it's just over. And, I remember you and Pete and a couple of other guys going nuts the first half, even parts of the second half. But then after a while, it was kind of like, I guess I'll sit down. There's not a whole lot to do anymore. What were you guys thinking throughout that game? And I know you had only been in Lancaster for a few months, but eventually someone must have elbowed you and like, hey, like this, we're not supposed to do this, man. Like, this is awesome. Like, did it get you at some point during the game? Like, holy cow, this is happening.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember thinking about going to the game. They have obviously Glenn Robinson on the other side, like a legendary coach. And I remember thinking, I'm going for win number 3. He's going for about win number 893 at the same time. So I was like, all right, let's go. Let's get after it. But I love to compete. And I think our guys really love to compete and love that challenge. And they started believing. And when you start believing, it's amazing what can happen when you combine that with talent. And we just they played really well. I mean, got to give our guys so much credit in that situation. They rose to the challenge and competed and executed exactly what we asked them to execute. And we caused some pretty serious matchup problems for them, just with how versatile our guys were on the perimeter. And we really tried to spread them out and play with a ton of pace, what we tried to do really the whole year. And they struggled with it. And they really struggled with it and kind of took their bigs out of it. And I remember Jordan and Herbie did a phenomenal job on their really good wing, Federici, and just everything kind of happened, and we played really, really well. So that was big. I mean, again, one of my goals when I took over the job is, can we raise the bar, right? Can we raise the bar on what we'd expected, and can we raise the bar with how we are going to operate, who we play against? And I think that's kind of what happened. They walked in believing, hey, it's not just, hey, let's just see where we're at, but like, we're gonna go get a W here, right? We're gonna go take care of business and kind of wake up people in the area, but also the country, like what LBC basketball can be and could do. And that, I'll tell you right now, that was a big win, not only for that year, but for the future of the program as well. And those guys who are on that team deserve a lot of credit for what we accomplished my last couple of years, and then what they're trying to do again now. So it was big. It was big time.
I know Jimmy Egan made a great video of some of your early season highlights. And there's a couple highlights from that game. Mellinger hits a 3 in the first half. He's standing on the eye of the Messiah Eagle. And after he goes in, you can see the F&M bench, and they slide back in their chairs like this is going to be the longest afternoon ever if those are going in. And sure enough, they did time and time again. And there's just a couple of great highlights from that game where, again, Bob and I having the fortune to see that program from years before leading up to that point. It was such a fun afternoon that kind of came out of nowhere. But like you said, not only propelled that team that season, but you can kind of hang your hat on that type of thing for a while. And that can bring some people to the program. I know we're going to get to it in a little while, but there's a lot of people who found out about LBC that afternoon. There's a lot of people that came to our next game we're going to talk about here in a second, the Eastern game, that I didn't recognize at all. It's these older gentlemen who all they ever did was go to Franklin and Marshall games. But now I got to talk. Who beat Franklin and Marshall the other night? I think they're in town. Like, we should go see them. By the end of the year, they're walking in every game and watching us play. Hey, Bob, Larry, Tim. Hey, guys. Like, how you doing? But they used to go to F&M games. But that season, all they did was come to Lancaster Bible games, because not only had we beaten F&M, but it was an exciting brand of basketball that more and more people wanted to be a part of. Again, that's something we'll talk about here maybe in a little while for sure. So, it was just a really fun couple of days there in the program.
Without a doubt.
Just moving along here through the rest of December here a little bit, but we finally play a home game the Tuesday before Thanksgiving against Eastern. Beat them, another good win against Eastern. Beat Penn State Berks and Bryn Athyn then to open NEAC play. So 6-0. Had to go down to Karen on a Friday night, December 11th. Play a tough game against Karen down in Langhorne. It's a big rivalry, not necessarily because we play a lot of the same teams, but we've played them a lot in the past. A lot of our players, may have had a choice. Do I go to Karen? Do I go to LBC? And, some players choose LBC. Some people choose Karen, things like that. What do you remember from that night in Langhorne where you had to win, frankly, one of the few close games you played all year long?
Yeah, for sure. One other thought real quick about the F&M game is I think one of the cool things about it, really this whole year, was that there are a lot of people that had a ton of played a huge part in getting our program to that point, right? Guys before I even got there. And from Pete laying the foundation as a coach to Marshall Tague to the players that have been in the program to, like I said, Jared Yoder recruiting guys. Like, it wasn't just, here comes a new guy in and everything just exploded. Like, there are a lot of people that played a part in this thing. And that was a point that hopefully a bunch of people could just step back and just appreciate how the program had been built and the different parts different people played, including obviously CJ and the guys who played a huge part in taking this thing to a really, really special level. As for the Karen game, it was a heck of a crowd. What I remember, besides me getting my first technical, was it was a heck of a crowd. Right. Pete didn't feel the same way, Zach, so be careful with that.
He got technicals too. He was no saint when he coached.
That's funny. But it was a heck of a crowd. Obviously, we were in a pretty good spot. We were like, 8-0 or something at that point. And you could tell Karen was really, really excited to play us, and they played a heck of a game. I have a ton of respect for how they built the program there, and the program's at a really good spot now. And at Karen, and they were prepared, and they came ready to go. And I don't feel like we played our best, and we got up to a pretty good lead, I think it was, if I remember correctly, and then just really struggled towards the end and kept them around. But to be honest with you, we needed a game like that, right? We needed a really intense game on the road with a really good crowd, where we hit some adversity for really the first time, and we had to respond and kind of hold it together. So those are some things I remember about that game. But it was another good win just because it was pretty heated and a lot of fun. And I think our guys really enjoyed playing in that environment. I loved being a part of that as well.
That's great. And so we have one more game after that. It's a game against Mount Aloysius. We led by 47 at one point and just crushed them. I think the big thing there, I remember talking with their coach before, maybe you, Zach, afterwards. Their head coach had a vote on the D3 top 25, I think. And I think we swayed him that evening, just kind of took it to Mount Aloysius. I want to bring in CJ Dunston. Thank you, CJ, for joining us. We talked last week with Marshall Tague, and you guys had a pretty big winning streak heading into Christmas that year before. Was there anything different about the winning streak heading into Christmas in the 2015-16 year?
All right, just to be clear, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, great. This is my first time using Zoom. So no, I felt like it was the same situation. It just we were working hard in practice, and that's all that really mattered. I just felt like if we played our best, we didn't really worry about winning or losing. So we didn't really think about the win streak, to be honest.
It's great. Now, I just remember heading into Christmas thinking, what a bad time to take a break. Like everything was going so well, but at the same time, like you said, CJ, it just seemed pretty apparent that it was going to go well a lot of nights more often than not. When we come back from Christmas, just to keep going through the schedule, beat Penn College by 57 points, beat Abington by 48, kind of cruising here. After the Abington game, though, we earn our first ever ranking, come in at number 22 in that D3 Hoops top 25 poll, and have to head to New York for the first time and beat Cazenovia that first night. Quickly, CJ, that's the game you dunked through your legs. I don't know that I ever asked you this, but did you tell the guys, hey, at some point I'm going to try this? Or was that just, hey, I'm on a breakaway and these guys can go scratch kind of thing?
No, he didn't tell his coach. I'll tell you that.
Honestly, it did go through my mind that if I missed, I was getting benched the rest of the game. But I always wanted to try that in a game, and I wanted to try and push a limit kind of thing. Just try it once, and if I failed, I guess I would have been sitting. But
the best part about that is that then Herbie stole the inbound pass and laid it back in. So it was a 4-point swing, and that dunk, the place, I think there's many people on the Zoom call that were in the gym that night, but still, the bench is going crazy and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. We have basically a VHS tape replay of that you can put on one of the things. So
yeah.
The next day though, we do have to play Morrisville State. So I'm Zach, I remember you brought this up. I had forgotten this. We got picked second in the conference during the preseason poll. I'm assuming they picked Morrisville first, right?
It might have been Gallaudet.
Maybe Gallaudet. That's true. One of the teams.
I can't remember. One of the two, yeah.
Regardless, Morrisville State.
I just remember number 2.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm sure I made a poster or something about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
I remember talking. Pete and I were actually in San Antonio that weekend for the NCAA convention, and I remember talking to Dave McHugh of D3 Hoops, and he, approached us, or we approached him, something like that. And hey, have you seen us play? Like, you should come check it out, Dave. And he said, I have been watching. This is pretty good, but I'm curious to see how you're going to play against Morrisville State. We're like, okay, I guess that's fair. We're winning by 50 points every game, but sure, that's fine. Good, great. Well, Pete and I remember we're in the airport waiting for our flight home. We're watching on our phones, and it's 60-29 at halftime. I remember thinking, is Dave in the airport? Like, and CJ, I'll start with you, and then we can go to Zach. But you've played Morrisville State those last couple of years. You lost in the NEAC final your sophomore year. They were kind of down your junior year, but basically you knew that they were kind of the class of the North Division. What went into your thinking that game, playing Morrisville State? We're ranked, undefeated. What was the mentality that day?
Well, whenever we played against Morrisville State, I remember they were kind of like a kryptonite to us. I remember losing my sophomore year, and it was a dagger. It made us work harder in the gym. So coming into that game, it was I don't think we really let off the pedal at all, because we knew what we wanted. A lot of guys felt that same pain I had. So we came into the game thinking it's not going to be a pushover, that's for sure. And we came out and played hard, and fortunately came out on top.
And Zach, I assume, we all, back in those days, we only played the North one time. I assume you thought playing them like, hey, we need to put a stamp on this because this is a team we might play again.
Yeah, without a doubt. That, and it had a hosting consequences as well, if I believe. So it was big, and our guys knew it, and they were locked in. I remember, CJ, you might remember this, walking through the hallway, and Morrisville was kind of chirping at us a little bit, and you guys probably were doing the same thing back, even though I said not to. And it kind of, I think, woke up our guys a little bit, and we just came out and played like we're capable. And when I really believed that year that when we play like we're capable, we could play with really anyone. And and that's what happened, man. We came, again, ton of credit to our guys, man. They came in locked in, and we pounced on them and just didn't play around with it at all.
The rest of January there, we score 100 points in 4 of the final 5 games of that month. Keuka, Wells, beat Valley Forge, and then Wilson and Gallaudet. Always nice to beat Gallaudet. We beat them here on a Saturday afternoon. Never really trailed at all. Kind of breezed there. Again, more victories there in February, as early February as well. Zach, you always talked about wanting to play your best basketball, their team's best ball, late January, early February. Let's get rolling here as we get into deeper into February. I think at the time, we probably thought that was happening. We were playing pretty good ball. Are there, looking back on it now, almost 5 years later, are there some alarm bells or some things maybe you guys missed or the guys missed heading into February there? I mean, we kept winning, so I'm not saying like, hey, you really missed that one or anything like that, but were there some signs that maybe it wasn't going as well as we thought it was at the time?
Yes. They put it very well. CJ could probably remember some of these conversations with the guys, but I just felt like we could play a lot better than we were playing going into February. That we kind of had we were pounding people. It was coming easy, and I could kind of feel we took our foot off the pedal a little bit. And I remember trying to show some of our guys film of the top teams around the country, and this is what the best look like. Because at this point, I'm thinking like let's forget just winning the NEAC Championship. To be very, very honest with you, we're thinking how far can we take this thing, right? And I can see it a little bit, and that's that to this day I may look back at it a little bit and like, yeah, that's probably where we started to slip a little bit, where there's some slippage, and just how we approach things every day in practice, how we competed, how we got after it, our attention to detail, our willingness to defend. We kind of got very comfortable just running people out of the gym. Those are some things I started to see, and obviously I wish we could have addressed it because I think the ceiling was even higher than what we got. But at the same time, this group accomplished a lot, so it's hard to and really put this program obviously on the map. So I don't really sit and think about that a whole lot. I'm more thinking about the positive experience of what CJ and his crew did to do something really, really special for LBC basketball, but also for LBC as a whole, right? I mean, I think to this day with where they took the program, it brought a lot of notoriety in the area. It brought a lot of notoriety around the country. It woke up a lot of people, and CJ and his class are a big reason that we won it again 2 years later, just because guys were bought into what we could do at LBC. So yeah, there's some concerns, but at the same time, I think more about the positives.
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't mean to make it sound like that if I did. Just looking back, like having the hindsight a little bit to look back on some things. But as we go through February, there's some more wins. Beat Cobleskill here. I know that was nice for a bunch of the guys who had lost to Cobleskill the year before in the NEAC final. That brings us to the final game of the regular season. So we're supposed to play Penn College on a Friday or earlier in the year, but it had snowed. So it was a makeup game on a Monday in February. And I think they brought 6 guys, 7 guys at the most. And I basically, like, I don't know how early you're allowed to raise the white flag, but they rolled it up the pole pretty quick after the tip off. But basically it turns into this 2-hour dunk party and people are, going crazy. But CJ, I'll just ask you, what do you remember from that night, sort of accomplishing, again, this wasn't the main goal, but after a while, going undefeated during the regular season becomes kind of a pretty big goal, and to be able to accomplish that, especially at home, what was that like for you and the guys that night?
He's muted right now.
Yeah, here, well, he can get off mute there real quick.
It shows how I do not understand this app. I was halfway in my talk. Let me go back. I don't want to use the word perfection because I feel like we could have done a lot of things better, but it felt similar to that. As a team, we accomplished that together, kind of thing. At the end of it, though, I don't really think many of us thought about the undefeated season as much as how hard it was in practice. Like, I think that's what actually made us the way we were. Our practices were so hard and competitive that it made the games easy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. It was just a lot of fun. I know that, the student section enjoyed that night. And again, they're just along for the ride. So they're not in the practices and things like that. So they're amazed how easy you guys made it look some nights. So heading into the NEAC semifinals, we played SUNY Poly. We actually trailed at half by 2, back and forth a little bit there in the second half, but eventually pulled away. Dave McHugh, who does such a great job with D3 Hoops, was actually in attendance that day. I got him to come to Lancaster, and it was great to have him there, kind of watch you guys play. And, the next day we played Morrisville State in the final. And we talked last week about the Gallaudet game, CJ, when after you guys lost to Gallaudet, then we hosted them here a couple weeks later. And there was just no way you guys were ever going to lose to Gallaudet that night, your junior year. I felt the same way about the NEAC final. It didn't matter who you guys played. It didn't matter who was on the other team. There was no way you guys were losing that afternoon. And we crushed them again by 26. Bryce had 30. CJ, how nice was it to win at home that year after losing the previous 2 years? And again, just sort of a culmination of everything that year.
You're saying against Gallaudet, correct?
Against Morrisville State, I'm sorry, in the NEAC final that in 2000.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Obviously, it meant a lot. I remember going back to the locker room. It was a sense of relief that came off because I remember every practice felt like there was a moment in my mind where I remembered the sophomore year of them beating us, and every year it was something that they always gave us a problem when I felt like we could have solved it. So it was good to actually solve it at the big stage.
And Zach, it was kind of a big deal to the program, as my phone rings here, kind of a big deal to the program, obviously to win that NEAC championship after the first 2 years, or at least the last 2 years anyway, of losing the NEAC final. Just again, not necessarily the only goal after a while, there was other goals added, but on a personal note, to come in and, like you said, you now have more wins than years alive at this point, as you coach. What did that feel like that afternoon?
Man, I was just so happy for those guys, like with all the pain that they had been through, all the work they put in, they just hadn't been able to get over the hump. That's kind of what I felt my job was, is like, how can I help this group just kind of get over the hump, right? And how can I help them reach their full potential? And that, I remember being able to step back and just enjoy watching them celebrate, enjoy watching them accomplish what they accomplished. And that's kind of what I remember. And I remember the semifinal game that you could cut the tension with the knife, the stress level with the knife. Just so CJ talks about relief. Like I could feel that for them as well. Just that they had to get over a little bit of a hump mentally, and they found a way to do it. So I was just proud of them and super happy for them.
He's being too humble. He's being way too humble.
So then Monday we find out that we're going to play Worcester in the first round at Catholic. So that was nice. I remember that being nice to be able to have people come along if they so wanted to down in Washington, D.C. Did you do anything different that week, Zach, or did you like the matchup with Worcester after you watched a couple games of film? What went through your mind that week as you prepared for Worcester?
Yeah, I like the matchup. I'm always an optimist when it comes to this thing. So I like the matchup. I felt like we could match up. I knew we were going to have to play really, really well. I mean, this is a historic Division III program with another historic coach that won a lot more games than I had won, and was I'll just use the word more experienced than I was, and all that. So I love the challenge again, personally, but also I felt like we had a group that could match up because we just caused so many they had a team that had some size in as well. Like we just caused so many different mismatches with CJ and Kurt and on the perimeter, and then they had to figure out how to guard those guys and keep them in front and run with them and all that kind of stuff. So I felt good about it. But I think we ran into a really, really good program. I think they went to Elite Eight that year, right? Like they ended up getting hot and had some damage, and they had a kid who played pretty well against us. I'll say that.
Hold on.
We got 45 and 12. Was that what it was?
That's Dan Fanley, 21 of 24 from the floor, 45 points. But CJ, a lot of people don't know this, or maybe they do. But when did you get hurt? Because you got hurt before the game, and had some knee trouble.
It wasn't before the game. It was in the first 6 minutes of the game.
Okay.
I believe it was. I don't know the exact minute, but
you were pretty limited.
Yes, but I don't think that would have changed a great amount during that game. I think we all just played a little more poorly than normal that game, and I take nothing away from Worcester. They definitely deserved it. They played very well and were well coached. But
absolutely,
yeah, I think we underachieved a little bit, and a lot of the guys on the team think that to this day.
Yeah, and from a coach's perspective, you come back to your other question about did I start to see slippage? I think that's where we started the accumulation of that. Personally, that's kind of my, as a coach, my 2 cents looking back. And at least we had some slippage when it came to late January, February, building habits, and you can't flip the switch or turn it back on when you play really, really good teams, right?
Yeah.
It worked in the NEAC, but like we hadn't built the habits to be able to beat a team like that. Whereas I think, I know this is about that my first year there, but 30, I think we were a little bit more prepared for the NCAA tournament just because we had built those habits and we're playing a little bit better basketball at the end of the year. But again, that's not to take any way away from this group at all.
And so what do you say after the game? I remember going back towards the locker room there, and, a lot of guys are, in tears, and it's tough. I mean, it's so quick. It's over so quickly. I think a lot of people, I just wait. So all the months we're just done. And it's the hardest part and maybe even the best part about NCAA basketball in March. What was the conversation afterwards?
Thank you. I mean, thank you to those guys. Like they put so much into it, and they had such an unbelievable career. Obviously, the young man that's on this call with us did this unbelievable special things, and I just wanted to thank them for putting LBC basketball on the map, right? And helping to make it where people viewed us and respected the program and were excited about the program. And like I said, they were a huge part of us being able to continue to build it. And they put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and then they bought into me, right? 26-year-old head coach, first time. I'm forever thankful to Pete, and I'm forever thankful for those guys that buying into me and a new way of doing things, and it all kind of led to a pretty unbelievable year. So that was more my message to them, just thank you. To the guys who are returning, like, we'll be back. That's the thing, and I want to leave them with is remember this pain, and let's let it fuel us as we move forward.
And CJ, and just sort of the aftermath of everything, again, you're a senior and you'd been through so much. I mean, your first year went 5-21, and then the next year, got a little more exciting, obviously. But did you guys realize at the time how special this was for not even just the guys on the team, but just LBC in general, whether it be the students or, I'm sure there were some staff and faculty that you'd never seen at a game before who all of a sudden were not missing a game and just kind of being around the community and things like that?
Yeah, I remember the game was actually about how far away was it from LBC? An hour and 30 minutes?
Maybe
so?
2.5.
2 hours. I remember we had a big fan section there too. It felt like we were playing at home. I remember looking at the right side of the court. I saw all the familiar faces, and it was a great feeling. So for that to happen, even though we lost, it's a great memory, and LBC was definitely behind us.
And Zach, same kind of thing. You answered it a little bit before earlier, just kind of understanding that it got to be a little bit bigger than basketball at some point during the year. I don't know when, probably earlier than we even realized. But just walking around campus or even in the community, I remember there was times where people would say, CJ got recognized at Chipotle, like some little kid came up to him or things like that. But, we just didn't have that happen before. I mean, again, not that that's, the end all of life, but we just never had that happen before. And what was it like trying to be on campus that winter?
Man, the buzz was unbelievable, and one of the coolest things about LBC and about the basketball program at LBC is the support, right? Like the fan support is unbelievable, and they got so far behind it. But then also, like you said, it's the community, and it was professors, and it just was an unbelievable experience. And I think it's one of the many values of athletics. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but one of them is like, if you can build something really special, it's free advertising. It's free promotional. And I think it really put LBC on the map in the area and nationally, which is really, really cool. And I mean, I remember, CJ, I don't know if you remember this, driving back from Wilson and seeing was like ESPN tweeting that we're one of 2 undefeated teams left in the country. It was us and I can't remember who else. Things like that, or all the D3 hoop stuff, or just it created a buzz that was a lot of fun, and was really, really cool to be a part of that.
And CJ, for you, I mean, again, these 4 years, you get to cap your career with, Nick and Dre and Luke and guys like that. Just talk about the quickly, like the little, roller coaster aspect of it, but at the same time, being able to work that hard over 3 and 4 years and kind of be able to grasp something and say, yeah, we did do that, and it was special.
Yeah, I mean, after working with those guys so many hours in our lives, I feel like I wasn't as excited for myself that we won a championship and went undefeated that year. I was happy for them, and they felt the same for me. It was very unselfish. Like we wanted it as badly for each other as we wanted it for ourselves. And that's what happens when you practice every day with people you know that close, you go to school with, even outside of basketball, you're hanging out too much time probably. It was just a great feeling. For sure.
Absolutely. And, Zach, we're not going to have you on in 2 weeks when we talk about 17, 18, but what were some of the differences? And you don't need to pick a favorite because I'm sure you like both times being in the NCAA tournament, but what were some of the differences? And you talk about maybe a little more preparedness for the NCAA tournament 2 years later, but what were some of the things that, or maybe another question, what are some of the things you relied on from 15, 16 in 17, 18?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as I look at the two groups, that first group that CJ was a part of was unbelievably talented, like unbelievably talented. I mean, as athletically gifted as I've seen the Division III team, and in all my different times watching Division III basketball, it was just special. And I think the thing that I really appreciate about them is they bought into just a new way of playing. Right, is trying to play with a lot of pace and really spread the floor and really go. And it fit that group really, really well. So that's the thing I remember about that group. In addition to they were a fun group to work with. I mean, they really were, and they really liked each other, which is important to any successful team. My last year there, I think what made that group special is from a basketball standpoint. And this happens anytime you take over a program, but year 3, the culture was a little bit more established with how I wanted to operate on a day in and day out basis. That group is, to this day, that group I coached my last year might be the most selfless team I've ever been around. And just with their care for one another and their care for what we're doing. And then they embraced, and I'm sure CJ will admit this, they embraced the defense side of the basketball a little bit more, where I felt like we were peaking at the right time with that group, where we kind of hit our peak a little bit earlier with the other group, the first group. My last year, I feel like we were peaking at the right time, which has led us to having a legitimate shot to win a game in the NCAA tournament, and who knows what happens after that. So that's kind of, as I look at the two groups, both very special, both deserve a ton of credit. But those are just kind of my takeaways as I really think about those years. They're both obviously a ton of fun.
Marshall admitted to us last week that he has never watched a replay of the SUNY Cobleskill NEAC final. Have you ever watched the Christopher Newport game?
I have. I'm
just curious.
You all know me well enough. I'm a junkie, so I'm gonna go watch and examine and dive into it, and both from just like figure out what we could have done better and different, but also for my development as a coach. But at the same time, like as I took over the job here, like what do I want to incorporate? What do I want to keep? I still cannot believe that a kid that hit 10 threes his whole season hits that shot to beat us. But
and Christo was so close. Christo was just missed getting a tip on that. And then the play before though that we drew up, that was the best play you've ever drawn up, I think. Was that one to get Christo open back door, and it was great, and we tied it. Sorry, this is such a rehashing. And Bob, we're gonna do 2 weeks too. It's okay.
we saved it, and they executed the heck out of it, and then the kid hits a shot. The worst part about it is I remember texting, going back and watching the game. I texted Chris Rich and Nick Monroe, and I said, "You got to be kidding me!" The first shot of the game that kid shot. I don't know if you remember this, from 3, hit the backboard first.
Oh.
I was like, oh my gosh, that makes me even more upset.
Well, this was a fun podcast up until
yeah, I'm gonna leave fuming. Yeah. Oh man, it's your fault, Zach.
Hey, as you guys think about 2015-16, what is 1 or 2 highlights that like maybe we didn't hit, or that are just like those special moments that you will always cherish from that year? And that goes for both of you.
Yeah, go ahead, CJ first. Can you hear?
No, you can go first. I go first.
Oh man, for me, it was just probably like we talked a little bit about this, but just like the willingness of a group to buy into me being a first-year head coach that wasn't the most experienced or oldest. Just like their willingness to buy in and their willingness to accept a new way of doing things was pretty cool and was really powerful, which speaks to how much they cared about the program, how much they cared about getting over the hump, and then also the type of individuals they really are. So like, to me, that's what jumped out is this, man, like this group is buying into a very different way of doing things. Doesn't mean it's better, but just a different way of doing things. And to me, despite my age and my experience.
Well, Zach, and like go a little bit deeper with that one then too, because like you played Division I basketball, and then you assistant coached for Division III a little bit, and then become a head coach in Division III. What's that experience like going from playing Division I and now you're coaching at the D3 level? Yeah.
Besides talking a lot of trash, right, CJ? CJ and I would go at each other a lot, so still can't guard me probably to this day, but it is what it is. It was a good experience for and I'm thankful because my mom was a Division III head coach. I've been around the Division III world for a while, and I value it. And so for me, I kind of feel like I got both perspectives where I value the Division III experience and I value what these guys are going through, but also I had the experience of playing against some pretty darn good players and playing at a pretty high level where I can bring that perspective as well. Is like, this is what it takes to be elite. And this is what it takes to be really good at something. And that's what we tried to instill with these guys. It's just like, hey, like, I want to help you be special. And it's so cool, like CJ being able to play overseas and some of these guys have been able to do some really special things. But regardless of what area of life, this is what it takes to be really good at something. And so that's probably the big takeaways for me, is just like, appreciation, respect, helping these guys understand what elite level Division III basketball can look like, but at the same time, a perspective of I was blessed to accomplish some pretty cool stuff on the court, and I want to help these guys do the same thing. So that's kind of where I go with that.
Yeah, CJ, what do you think? What are some of the highlights from that undefeated season until you get to Worcester and everything? Are there some games that just particularly stand out to you, or and CJ's continuing to learn how to use Zoom here, so if he gets back in here, we'll ask him that again.
Bob, what about you, Bob? What are do you have any quick memories of that?
I that year is such a blur. Like, I missed the F&M game because I was away that Saturday. I did see the Messiah win. Zach Freeman, I think I told you last week, like, NEAC, we just kind of marched through. And I think the wins against our non-conference opponents were, in my opinion, probably much bigger, and they happened early season, and we just it was incredible to watch this team from Lancaster Bible College just go and do something none of us ever expected to fully see. And I don't know if we will again. Who knows? I mean, there's potential there every time, but they were, as Zach Filson has said, just a group of guys that loved to play basketball together, and they had a blast out there, and they would put on a show most nights and be able to do that. So, CJ, my question for you was, like, what are some of the highlights of the season or games that were pretty cool to you that you remember with beyond a shadow of a doubt? Hey, and your mute is still on.
I'm muted again.
There you go.
I don't understand how it's happening. But yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you for the last 5 minutes. Actually, something went wrong with my audio. But the highlights are definitely not the games that we had. Maybe at the championship, the last one in the NEAC, that was a nice feeling to have because it was always a hump we couldn't get past. But I think I remember practices the most. It was very, very physical, very challenging, and I think that was definitely one of Coach Filson's strengths is getting the guys ready for practice. We really came out every day. I had a different mentality than from my other practices that I've had. Yeah, so those are definitely my highlights, is how we bonded as a team through practice and through competition. Those are my memories.
And you guys are probably still as tight as ever. I mean, I know there's a lot of banter that goes back and forth between you guys of what team's better than which team. And CJ as a sophomore and CJ as a senior, the differences that are there and everything. So there's no lack of conversation and communication between you guys as players, I'm sure.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Bob, I think you brought up a good word though, like putting on a show. And I know that's not the point of college basketball, but it really, really was that year. I mean, we probably took it for granted after you see it so many times in a row, but just going back through some of the box scores, we'd have 68 points at halftime. We'd have, 62 point half here or there. I think we scored over 60 and a half 4 or 5 times that year. Like, there've been games before this season that we didn't score that many in the game. And, that wasn't the point. We were trying to get in the 50s. Like it was so much fun. And again, I don't think the players held grudges, but the players' memories were very good from years past. And the smallest slight was going to result in a 60-point half. And it just seemed easy a lot of nights. But one of the highlights for me, and just again, this is me being here for like Bob, many, many years, but the crowds, I can't do that tonight with you because I have to go to the men's basketball game. That was never, ever, ever said on this campus, ever. And for 4 or 5 months, this was must-see TV. Whether it be on live stream or the coverage, D3 Hoops to Sports Center to, my dad basically telling his editors of the newspaper, like, LBC's playing tonight. I'd love to go cover that other thing, but LBC's playing. Like, that never happened. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. But for a couple of months, our students were so loud. The gym was so loud. And it was the place you had to be on campus. And that just hasn't happened very often. And Zach, you said it so great. It's free advertising. We had people starting to look at Lancaster Bible College that Filzen wouldn't have touched because he had no idea he could recruit them. But all of a sudden they were calling. They were calling him. We had opponents calling us, players calling us, asking if we were taking transfers. That's not supposed to happen. And frankly, I'm not sure we should be taking those calls. But nevertheless, it was just such a fun time to be here. And I can't.
I remember we had to figure out how the heck are we going to get people in here. Like, we got to start getting tickets. We got to start doing, like, these are the times you can buy tickets, like stuff you don't see at the Division III level. Like,
we live streamed the men's NEAC final in the cafeteria because there was no one else was allowed in the building. And it didn't help that year that we're going to get to in another podcast this week. Our women were really good that year too. And they had the best player in program history and 2 other players who are unmatched in program history. And they won every game. So now I forget, I wrote it down in one of the things, but I'm pretty sure we went 29-1 at Horst Athletic Center combined that year, something of that, and 26-1, something like that. It was just easy, and it was so much fun, and everyone, and it wasn't just fun for the students or the players or the coaches. It was fun for everyone who was in the building, and a lot of people, like Zach said, no LBC because of that year. Their fandom started that year. The big joke is always how many Patriots fans before 2001, and it's the big joke, or Red Sox fans for 2004, things like that. I don't really care, but there's a lot of LBC fans that can trace their heritage back to 2015-16, and I think that's one of the indelible marks of this team.
100%.
So,
100%.
Bob, do you have anything else for our esteemed guests?
I don't think I do. It was just such a fun year to watch. I mean, you can just picture like CJ dunking, Dre dunking, the points that went up. I was looking over the box scores and stuff. The lowest we scored in any game was 75.
And we won by 18 that night.
Yeah, beyond that, like the scores were just outrageous all season long, and it was a ton of fun.
And we weren't playing gimmicky basketball.
No,
like it wasn't. It was just, we're just gonna go, and our players are that good. Good luck.
Big Renell, say it, Filson, do it. Say it.
Yeah, we're not. No, they're in my league now. We were not playing like Renell. But I'm with you. I didn't mean to cut you off, Bob, but like that's the point.
Yeah, the points were legit, and the guys were able to convert, and percentages were way up, and while you said like 2 years later that team might have been a little bit more selfless, these guys were team players though too. And they're, you can look around, and if one guy was off one night, somebody else picked up and was shooting well that night. And even as I looked at the Worcester the box score, all your players were doing it. I mean, we scored 83 points still.
Yeah, we didn't
in a loss. But a few more buckets go in, that game's a totally different game. But it is what it is, and you learn from it and you get better from it then too.
Bob, I think you're right. I think we talked about the men's volleyball program this way a little bit later in this decade, where we're gonna take Nate Miller out of the game. Okay, great. Have you met other people? Have you met Benjamin Erb and Derek Bigley and all these guys? It was the same thing. All right, we got to limit Bryce on the perimeter. Great. He's going to throw it up in the air, and Dre and CJ are going to catch it, and you guys can have fun inside. Or, hey, we need to take care of the inside. And then Bryce would hit 8 3-pointers. And like, okay, thanks, guys. This was great kind of thing. And so it was just amazing. Different nights, different people. And I think one of the other things, too, is it was more than the 5. We're getting minutes from a lot of people who, I think to Billy Livesey, who had a really big season 2 years later. He learned a lot of things his first year here at LBC. And I think those practices CJ references probably really helped Billy 2 years later when we had to go play tough games, because they weren't as easy that year. We won a lot of 5 to 6 point games that year. And those are probably a lot of things Billy learned in practice. And so I just think it was such an all around fun time to be a part of all of this. So,
and we haven't really talked about John Bird coming off the bench as well, like a 6'7" tank that just caused a lot of issues as well. And I think, Bob, I agree 100%. I'm not saying that this group was not selfless. This group bought into each other and bought into how we wanted to play, and we're so willing to let other people shine, which is really, really cool. But I mean, I never have, and I probably never ever will again, try to figure out as many different ways to throw a lob as possible with that group, from as many different angles, as many different actions. It's just like, how can we throw the ball really high up in the air and let CJ and Dre go get it? Which you just don't see at our level a whole lot. I mean, you saw the other night when the Lakers played the Heat, but you don't see a whole lot at our level.
I think Bob, we've talked about this, I think every podcast we've done, but just being able to look back and trace everything, from an Albert to a CJ, but this is really, Herbie's playing really, really important minutes. And 2 years later, he's the best player on the team. So there's a lot of things that, CJ probably learned from Albert, then CJ passed to Herbie, and then Herbie passed it to Luke Beers. And then, whatever it may be, there's just such an amazing lineage through all of these teams throughout, from 13-14 to present day of, hey, I learned this from so-and-so, you need to be doing this. And then they told it to that person and then that person. It just stretches and stretches. And I think that's really, really how you build a program is, yes, success, very, very helpful, of course, but just the amount of things in practice that are worked on afterwards. Marshall was saying last week that he had to, tell Nahir and CJ to knock it off with all the lobs in practice, because that's all, that's what they wanted to practice. But then all of a sudden, I was watching some highlights from the NEAC final. The first play is a lob, and the place is nuts then for 2 hours straight. So it really can be helpful, as we joke about them occasionally, but it's just so fun to look back and do this and see who helped who and who crossed with who. And the men's basketball team is such a great example of that. So,
yeah. And it's been cool because, there's been multiple different coaches, which means that is not as much a coach thing. It's the players and the character of the players that they're wanting to help each other. And they've been the ones that sustained it through the years. And each one of us have played a different part, right? Each one of us played a different part in laying the foundation and trying to get it to a pretty special level. And I'm super excited to see what the program continues to do moving forward. But the players are the constant, right? And they are the ones that have cared enough about each other to help each other out and push each other and challenge each other to do some pretty special things at a place where people are like, you can be good at basketball there, right? You can be good at sports there. And I think this group helped people realize that's a reality. And that's where this group should be celebrated for a long time, I think.
Yeah. I think if you go back to that F&M game, I think the story that I heard from that game, the timeout was called and the comment was, "We're losing to a Bible college," and from the other bench.
I love it.
And I think that was probably one of the best motivations for you guys to never, let up. If we're going to go out, we're going to play hard, and we're going to do extremely well at what we're doing. So I think that is just one of the coolest things from that entire year. And it was a culmination, CJ, going back to your freshman year, it probably was hard to see, like, I think after that freshman year, you're like, really, are we really going to ever be good? And to getting to the point that, yeah, you really were that good, and and pretty impressive to see the turnaround from the program. The other thing that I love about it is, Zach Freeman and I talked about this last week a little bit. These guys are amazing friends on and off the court. They've made lifelong friendships. I'm seeing it now in the other teams. There's just a group of men's soccer from the early years, but right now, one of the guys just got married this past weekend from one of the more recent years. And you see a picture pop up and you're like, man, there's 12 guys around him that are tighter than tight. And the ability that athletics has to create lifelong friendships is just one of those really cool things. And been pretty fun to watch athletics develop at Lancaster Bible College into these groups of men and women who truly are just living out life together and doing it well.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to end it, Bob. I think that's just one of the things that was just so exciting with this group from 15-16 is just how tight they were, and to watch Coach Filzen come in and just lead them. And it was so amazing to just be a part of it. And it gave you the opportunity, everyone, to think of new things, new plays. Hey, let's try this. We've got all these people. Let's do this. And it was just such a freeing year for everyone to try things and kind of throw things against the wall and see what would stick. And it really, really worked. And it wasn't gimmicky basketball. It was really, really good offensive basketball, and a mixture too, that we had the athletes to do different things defensively too. As CJ, you had over 60 steals. You don't just come up with 60 steals, things like that. That's reading the play and understanding what's going on and watching film and breaking it down. And Filson, you're right. There was never a time that there wasn't basketball on one of your computer screens when we would come into your office, because you're just watching basketball, because you'd pick things up here and there. And that's such an important thing. And I think that everyone was just really, really motivated and into the basketball. And that was something I'll never forget from that year either. So really appreciate you guys coming on and talking about this. And this was great. This is everything I thought it was going to be. And it's just one of those years. I can't believe it's been 5 years. I can't believe that it's been that long from this. And I hope that we can keep these memories going throughout all the years. So thanks a lot, Zach and CJ. And I hope we get to talk to you guys and see you guys soon.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Zach, one of the other things that you always kind of ask, can you give just a brief update on what's been going on with your life since that amazing run? CJ, can you tell us a little bit where you've been and what's happened?
Yeah, CJ, go ahead first this time.
You want me? Okay. Ever since then, I guess I played internationally a little bit, and then I had 2 back surgeries, so I've had to slow it down. I'm currently transitioning into a real estate career. But other than that, not really much to talk about. It's definitely been a fun ride, and this might actually surprise people. I remember Filson saying that our team was ridiculously talented my senior year. I think that is the most talented team I've been on still to this day. Truly, it was unbelievable what kind of talent we had at the Division III level. I haven't seen it yet. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, for us, it's trying to figure out how to manage these crazy times. Obviously, from a basketball standpoint, just we're good though. Wife's great. Daughter's great. Almost 3, turns 3 on Halloween, which is mind-boggling. And then from a work standpoint, just working to try to get this program going. Where it's a little bit different situation I took over here than I took over at LVC with this year, where it's just taking us some time to get the right pieces in and kind of lay the foundation to get this program to where we want to get to. So just been working at that, and I'm excited about the future here with what we're doing, but I'll forever be thankful for the memories at LVC, both this year and then the other years as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And so you're head coaching at Lawrence, right?
Yeah, head coach at Lawrence University, Division III in Wisconsin now. So
Yep.
back in the Midwest, which at times I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with these winters? But family trumps the weather. So been close to my parents, which has been awesome. But yeah, it's so taking over a program here that back in the day was very, 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 very good, and just been struggling for about 10, 12 years, and now trying to breathe life back into it and get this thing rolling again, which I think we're on our way. So we'll see though. We'll see what happens.
Good.
That's awesome. Well, again, really appreciate you guys, and looking forward to hearing from what you guys are doing in the future, and hopefully we can play some ball here this year, and we'll get back to it. So again, thanks, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for having
guys.
us.
All right. Thanks, guys. And yeah, of course, go Chargers, go.